start on this. Right, first of all, I want to say thank you very much for today. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Sheona Farley, and I am a life coach and counsellor from Ireland.
Oh,
And
wow.
been to Dubai and living back with where you are now and living back in Ireland. Made the big move.
I didn't realize that you actually brand yourself as a life coach. So yeah, explore a little bit in that. How did you manage to get that recognition, life coach?
Yeah, so the reason being I did psychology and counselling. So that would always be my foundation and my basis. But I suppose with what I noticed from clients early on when I started out was that yes, there is the talking through and the listening about your past and your triggers, which is so, so important. And sometimes people just want a listening ear. But it is also very helpful to put a plan of action in place and to actually help people gear towards their future and work towards, or even just work on the present moment and have someone that they can be accountable to. So I wouldn't say, that I'm one or the other or that I focus on one or the other. I've my finger in many pies in terms of I went on then and did law of attraction practitioner course because manifesting is sexy right now. And that's what people want to
Yeah.
hear. And then also neuroplasticity, because it depends what kind of client you have in front of you. So I'm always think like you got to be armed for who you have. So sometimes like say girls our age would love to talk about manifesting and law of attraction, and that's the kind of route they want to chat about and go down. Whereas you could have people who are like, no, that's airy fairy, don't believe it. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the science. And then you can go at it that way, in a more
Yeah.
practical sense. So I suppose the reason I did that was because I thought, okay, there is an element of counseling, but let's also bring an element, like you would know as a PT, of kind of accountability and check-ins and,
Yeah.
to do like that sort of thing. So yeah, it's hard to introduce myself in terms of I'm this because I'm like, I'm that, but I'm also that, but I'm also that.
Do you know what? I had a conversation there yesterday with a guy and we were talking about being a positive manipulator. I know that sounds crazy, but it's like how you can manipulate people into like obviously taking action in different ways because yeah, you need to notice who you're actually speaking to a lot of the time. And when you get really good at that, and that's obviously when you start working with so many different people and your service based person or practitioner, you will notice that, yeah, you can't, have the
No,
same cookie cutter
not one
program for
size fits
everyone.
all.
Yeah.
And you know that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie,
Yeah,
like
I
that
read that.
popular for a reason. And it's like, okay, this is helping me either be a really good coach or completely manipulate people into, so it's like that option of knowing who you're dealing with and knowing that not everyone's the same and they need to be told different things in a different way. And, that's sort of, that sort of thing.
That book was actually a funny one because I had that book in public and I just thought people are gonna judge me by reading this book. It's like there
It's
was one book
really low ticking.
there was a book actually big recommendation. I don't know whether you've read it before, Love Mastery by Don Miguel, I
Yeah,
think,
the master.
or
Yeah, yeah.
something. Yeah.
All of
Uh,
his books are amazing and they're so small. That's why I recommend them to clients because the font is big. You get through them quickly, but they're so deep. Like you actually take so much from them.
yeah. So anyway, we're going off on a tangent now. So I'm gonna pull you back and just ask you, like how did you get into psychology then? As in what like where did you study? What was how did that happen?
So I'm a trained secondary teacher. So I'm a secondary teacher by day, like Batman. No, but so I did that. I was a secondary teacher for 3 years. And from the moment I started teaching, I found I always got involved in the well-being side of things and pastoral kind of side of things. I actually taught in an all boys school and still like love that and managed to connect with the lads. Now I'm like me being young at the time also I'm sure played into it that I wasn't too much older than them. So I kind of knew what was going on there.
I'd say they loved you.
Oh, stop. They didn't after 5 minutes in the classroom. They were like, this one is a wagon. But that we kind of noticed. And they're bringing out they've really endorsed a new well-being initiative in Irish schools. So that needed to be spearheaded. So I suppose I was out at the right time I was teaching, because that was becoming really popular in schools, and there was like policies being put in place that I got involved with in committees, well-being committees. And then I moved to Dubai to teach, and I actually lost during COVID time. Now, not necessarily COVID related, but I actually lost a couple of past pupils to suicide.
Oh
And that really,
no.
that really resonated with me. Now, well-being and psychology was something I was really always interested in, even from when I was a teenager, or more so college age. I feel like self-development books and that kind of thing pulled me out of not necessarily a dark space, but just kind of a feeling, I suppose, of being lost, or it just made me feel okay more so with being myself, because I wasn't into drinking or going out and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wasn't my scene, but it made me feel like that's okay that it's not my scene, because you
Yeah.
can be, when you're the only one that doesn't want to go out and get drunk, that could be a lonely place to be. I know you've given up drinks. You're like, yeah, I feel
It's, you know what, funny enough, I've given it up for 2 years, and I know listeners can't see that, but I did drink 2 weeks ago, and Debbie, absolute
it.
downer, absolutely no, like I don't think I'll go back drinking again. I actually felt just the low that that alcohol gives you afterwards. It's just such a low vibe.
And
And
not even the next day. Like, I find if I drink on a Saturday, it's the Tuesday and the Wednesday that I'm really like in a low place.
Yeah, I'm just like, why would you, or why would I don't mind anyone else drinking. Look, it makes no difference to me, like by all means, but I'm like, I am not taking the active decision to actually pay to have this lull for the next couple of days. It's not worth my time. And I'm enjoying life without it.
Yeah.
But
Me and my brother always laugh, because they're always saying to my parents, it'd be better if they were pioneers, because they're not like they're actual pioneers, but they drink it maybe 4 times a year at Christmas and stuff. So
no
we're like,
way.
we don't know, like everyone else's childhood trauma is like dealing sometimes with parents who drink too much, and we're like, you drink so little, we don't know how to socialize, we don't know how to be out and to like deal with what's the appropriate amount of drinking in life. So we're always like,
Yeah.
dated us in this way.
Do you know what's mad is that like I grew up in a family that drink like quite regularly, and that would be their passion, you could nearly say.
Yeah.
So
As
so
many, yeah.
it is quite difficult, I think, to be the black sheep in the family and just be like no, and every Christmas or whatever it is, like, to say no to these kind of things.
Yeah.
Would you, obviously spinning off on that in terms of you counseling, would you say this is a common issue for people being like crowd pleasers?
Absolutely. Like, people pleasing is a trauma response. It's a way of dealing with the trauma in your body. So it's like, whatever it might come from, a past relationship, or like your family, fear of rejection, just not feeling seen sometimes by your family growing up, or friends, bullying, things like that. It's a way of being in control and being like, well, as long as I keep everyone and everything happy, that's the main thing. It's a sense
Yeah.
of what brings so many people a sense of calm. And that could include not wanting to be the one that says, well, I'm actually not having a drink tonight. In that context, like,
Yeah.
rock the boat. I have a fear of rocking the boat. I can't be the one, because then they're going to ask me why. And then and they're going to judge me. And what if they think and
Yeah.
that's a whole issue of its own. And it is sad, but it is completely understandable, because we have this fear of what people will say and think of us. And it kind of consumes everyone these days.
It's a great understanding, obviously, that you just mentioned there, that it is a trauma response. And I feel like most listeners, they probably don't realize this when they are crowd pleasing. So I'm like, can I just repeat that so everyone can drill that into their minds now so they can start saying no, Um,
Absolutely, yeah.
I even
That's
feel like when I was younger, like, and I wasn't aware of any of this. I would have done this quite often, to the point that it made me so sad in myself because I wasn't doing things that I wanted to do. Did
yeah.
you ever do this as a child?
I feel like maybe not so much as a child, but like, I mean, I had a happy, healthy childhood. I had great fun. I was a little bit tomboyish, loved being outside, which is probably why I was so happy, because, as they say, being out in nature and stuff like that is very grounding. And I was 11:30 at night, mom would call me and I was outside playing with sticks and having a restaurant with the flowers, like that kind of thing. Playing football. Maybe it's got to do also with not having sisters, but I was that kind of outdoorsy child. And then teenage years, yeah, I suppose a little bit of it, that, things I didn't care about started mattering, like looks and boys and things like that, like who's shifting who with the junior disco and just like not
Shifting.
being one,
For the listener, that's kissing. That's such an
That's
Irish term.
kissing. Yeah. An Irish term. It's not romantic in any way, shape, or form.
So you said you grew up with brothers then?
Just one brother, just
One
me with
brother.
myself. Yeah. So
Okay.
that definitely, I feel like, had an influence on what mattered to me growing up. Like he reads a lot and he did a degree in English and stuff like that. So I think that did an influence on my, I suppose, philosophical thinking and
It, it's
everything else.
it's funny you say that because I have three older brothers and I have no sisters, and it just, yeah, I think it kind of wires you a little bit different to, because in that actually in the book that I mentioned earlier, Whale Store, Selfie, they say I think it's like 90% of your kind of upbringing comes from your culture and stuff like that as well, and how you respond to certain things. And I'm kind of like, yeah, when you grow up with three older brothers and not have that feminine side, though, you
Yeah.
lose that femininity as well, though.
And that needs to be felt some way, be it with like skincare or dancing or something. You need to have a bit of both. And when you work, and I know you love to work, that's masculine energy, that's coming out.
Yeah.
Like the work mind is masculine energy. So then you need play. You need
Yeah.
so a bit of fun, be it a night out where you're dancing or anything, listening to music in the kitchen, cooking, whatever it might be. Just the feminine energy needs its own little
Can
moment.
you actually just elaborate a little bit on that, like with masculine energy? Because I feel like now I had a bit of a like a yaha moment when I was in the gym one of the days, and I actually realized I feel like females are becoming more masculine than ever, because it's like we want to be able to be the
Absolutely.
breadwinner. We want to be able to lift super heavy. We want to, and we're all adapting this like masculine approach, even the way we walk around the gym, slamming weights all the time. And I thought, I don't want to do this anymore. It's funny.
Yeah.
I just had that
And it is.
realization moment.
Yeah, and that's it. It is the balance, because men need it too. Men need to do feminine things. That's it. I'm not just, talking about women. Like men have to have their masculine things, like work. Work for all of us is a masculine thing to do. You're in the masculine mode. But feminine, dance, play, enjoyment. And it's not like this man woman thing we were taught growing up, like, oh, when you cook, that's being a woman. That's feminine energy. It's not like that. It's more a case of when you have those things where you're feeling a little bit more lighter, I suppose, and you're less in the zone and trying to get a task done, that's more feminine. Now, that could be sometimes playing football for a lad might bring out a bit of feminine energy, because they're laughing and they're at
Yeah.
play and they're switching off from work mode for, an hour. So it's not as black and white as you might think. Like, I'm sure lads be like, "What, football? No, I'm a man, I'm masculine." But like, it's not that easy. It's, we need a balance of both, and that's kind of, like you said, girls walk around the gym and things like this. It's boss bitch, I don't need a man. That's great, and we're seeing more and more girls living in Bali chucking in their life now, pole dancing, and that's not the only way to release your feminine energy, but it is one way.
No way. Do you know what's
Yeah.
funny? Was that like I haven't done pole dancing now, but I've like danced with the idea of it, like as in just to get your body moving a bit more
Yep.
of a flow. Now I've gotten really into yoga
Yeah,
recently
absolutely.
and just being super flexible. And as I I know maybe you might know a bit more about this, but like they say, obviously you hold a lot of tension in your hips, your trauma in your hips and everything. And I've noticed since I've started doing yoga and stretching and just letting things go, I'm like feel so much lighter within myself.
That's it. And if you start viewing emotions as energy, like anger, let's say, for example, is a very high energy emotion, it's built up energy. It just needs to get out. It needs to be released. And, that could be with the boxing class, it could be with yoga. It's just energy that needs to be released from the body,
Yeah.
and that your yoga is a way of doing that. It's like all the built up from working and, worries about whatever finances people might have or things like that, fights with partners. That's just like, it's all building up inside you and your body's holding on to that. And it just needs to kind of let go of it a little. And it can be in whatever way you want. Some people want to do cooking and dancing in the kitchen. Some people want to do MMA,
Yeah.
whatever works and makes you feel good and has the results, I suppose, that you're looking for.
So I'm gonna pull you back to when you were just mentioning about basically when, oh God, I'm losing my train of thought. um
Or you
right.
talked about some
You
natural.
talked about something, and then I actually was like, I want to ask you a question on that. And then I'm like, uh-oh. Anyway, moving on then. I want to ask you about toxic positivity. So you know how like all of us seem to be running around like being super positive 24/7. Um, yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit on this? Like why maybe this isn't always the right idea to be super positive 24/7?
Yeah. So toxic positivity is, it's extremely hard to not have that, to not give toxic positivity to our friends and our family when they're going through something tough. And we want to say, it could be worse, or, you know, it's all right, get back up on, it's fine. It's going to be okay. Like everything's fine and dandy. And, you see the Instagram posts and you see like just positive vibes only.
Yeah.
And that sickens a lot of people. That's really sickening. When you're in the depths of despair or you've just come through a breakup or you're having a really hard time, you don't want to hear it could be worse. Like you don't
Yeah.
want to hear, oh, well, other people have it worse than you. And that's not going to help you, or
Yeah.
like positive vibes only is a silly statement. Like it's unrealistic. Like I would always say to clients, they might come to me, say on a consultation call and say, I just want to be happy. I just want happiness sometimes. Happiness is short lived. Like happiness, like pleasure, peace and content. Yeah. Because you
Yeah.
can be content with your life and say, I'm content where I am while still working towards a better me or a better life for me. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I'm very happy with my day-to-day life now. That's kind of more the goal, I think, to work towards, because happiness implies that there's no suffering. And as if there's no suffering, life continually throws SH1D at us from many different directions, and it's going to happen. And like,
Yeah.
maybe I'm the worst life coach counselor in the world, where I'm like, listen, you think it's bad now, wait till you see, there'll be another bad thing happening. But that is reality, and I
Yeah.
think people resonate with that because they know right well, you might have a good few months and then sure enough, something bad does happen. And it's about building the resilience in yourself and your knowing in yourself and trusting yourself that you're going to be okay to weather that storm, and you've got the tools to deal with it,
Yeah.
but that you can still feel sad. Like times are going to come, you're going to have sadness, you're going to have anger, you're going to have all those negative emotions. They're messengers, they're going to come. You just, you have to work through them and remember that you don't live there.
Yeah, I think people don't want to hear that, and they rather kind of look at life with rose tinted sunglasses and just like literally bury their shit under the carpet.
100%, 100%. And it can come in forms of addiction, like what we chatted about earlier as regards alcohol or fitness. Like I'm sure you're in the fitness industry, you see a lot of people who, gave up drinking or drugs or maybe something like that and said, no, I have my addiction there. Now I love fitness. And little do they know, well, now you've just replaced the addiction. Your
Yeah,
self-worth is found in the bottle, and now your self-worth is found in your abs, or, making sure you get that workout in, or counting your calories and your macros. And they think they've overcome the trauma or the
yeah.
addiction, or the trying to fill the void, because we've all got voids in us, don't get me wrong, this is no, but it's just, no, you've just replaced it with something else. You're just getting the same buzz off something different.
So
And
for someone, sorry to cut across you there, for someone who's suffering from trauma and they've had an addiction, right, and they replace it with, say, if it is fitness or whatever it is, what would you potentially tell them to do as a solution, or what would it be then? Would you not see that as a positive solution, that they're directing and disrupting their old behaviors?
yeah, absolutely, because they are replacing something that was unhealthy for them with something healthier. But it's more about the why are you doing it. So sitting with yourself, and that's why like my clients would be journaling and they'd be checking in with me and sending me journal entries for however long they might do their program. But a case of, and like, look, by all means, I things that drive me mad is this thing of, well, you've got to get up at 5 a.m. and you have to do half an hour of yoga and you have to do half an hour of meditation. And,
Bullshit.
like, unless you're a Buddhist monk living in Tibet, it's not your ego, as we hear with books and things now, it's going to exist. Like
Yeah.
you're going to give a crap what people think about you. Unless, like, because you're not living out cut off from society. If you've got an Instagram at all or a Facebook, you care what people think and you're just running with the mill, and that's fine. That's life.
Yeah.
But it's a case of saying to yourself, okay, sitting down with yourself, asking the tough questions, which sometimes I do feel writing down is the best way to go about that. And figuring out, all right, why am I doing this? And noticing your emotions in your body. So like saying, I didn't get to the gym today. If that becomes extremely uncomfortable for you, or if you
Yeah.
go over your macros and you feel really uncomfortable and like maybe some physical symptoms of anxiety, heart palpitations, or you can't sleep then with the guilt,
Yeah.
then they're like the red flags. They are the alarm bells where you can't say to yourself, gosh, like it was one day, or, where you're
Yeah.
saying, why do I feel this unease that I've
Yeah.
missed today? Where I haven't, because it's the same as the shakes from missing a drink, that when you're
Yeah.
an alcoholic, it's just making sure that, yeah, this is something that brings me so much positive benefits, the endorphins, feeling good in myself. Because yeah, it's completely okay to want to look good. Like people
Yeah.
bash it. You can't exercise for aesthetic goals. Yes, you can.
Of
100%.
course you can.
You look,
Like
you
I
look.
just think why not? If that makes you feel sexy, why not? And I think yeah, I feel like the fitness industry has gone through different kind of realms, you could say, of like 1 second it's like, oh, we can't talk about looks because apparently now that's gonna make us have like eating disorders or be obsessed or whatever. And it's like, no, we can all have our own goals, but we can't expect everyone to have the same goal as well,
No.
which is very unfortunate when it does come to social media and people think that, oh, well, this one looks like she's put on a bit of weight and that's her body. Let her do whatever the fuck she wants, like, and I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I think that can be really disappointing with social media as well, that people obviously have a perception on what the ideal look should be or what people should be doing in terms of
Yeah.
their achievements and stuff like that. So just to actually raise a point there with you, I like, how have you found social media and the effects on people's mental health?
I find like there's so many avenues or answers, I suppose, to that question in terms of different things and different areas when it comes to, like, obviously appearance, and also from a psychological point of view, the instant scroll, the kick of dopamine, and just being like, haha, that's a funny video, next, haha, okay, that made me laugh, next, okay, there's someone doing their makeup, that entertained me for 30 seconds, next. It's like the instant rush, and that's become very hard to replace. Like that becomes very hard for people in like our line of work of, therapy and things like that, where you're saying, usually I would say, okay, say for you, a PT, chocolate gives someone dopamine or serotonin and they feel good. And you say, okay, well, did you know that when you go for a walk or you achieve a goal, you're going to get that same rush chemically in your brain? There you
Yeah.
go. That's a nice replacement, and that works fine. But now in the age of social media, it's like so hard to replicate that rush of dopamine that you get from. So I do think for people who find themselves really addicted to their phones, they actually need to make such an effort. Like read, that book, How to Break Up with Your Phone. And there's several books on.
No, actually, I'd love to
Yeah,
read it.
yeah, and it's short and small and it's digestible. But I do think it's something that we all need to actually treat ourselves like children in every aspect in life, but
Yeah.
in this one especially, where we give ourselves boundaries. Do you know the way parents now are saying, okay, 30 minutes on the iPad and then wash up for bed? We
Yeah.
need to do that as adults. We need to say, my phone time is from 11 to half 11, and then maybe 9 p.m. to half 9 at night. Like, there's my time, my phone time, and give ourselves the boundaries, like create it. Because if you know something's unhealthy for you and not going to serve you, you have to actually put rules in place. Like, we're kids inside.
Yeah.
treat
That's
ourselves that.
Yeah, that's really amazing because I feel like I know I've been single for a while and I have been on a couple of dates, and I can guarantee like some of the guys that I have went on a date with, they're big social media kind of guys, and I can see they're like they don't know me. They don't actually know me, and the rate of like their level of being so distracted. I'm like it, sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, I wonder, is this am I like, do you want me to do a song and a dance? Do you want me to get up and start swinging things around? And it's like, I feel like you're nearly fighting with people, not even on dates now. I'm talking about other relationships now. You're nearly fighting for people's attention.
100%. And it's like everyone's disposable. And I mean, that is a completely world of its own. The dating world now is just, I mean, you're now, people have just got this long list of boxes they need ticked now. Like our parents' generation didn't have that. It was like they're loving, they're kind. Yeah, okay, maybe they're not on top of their health, or maybe they're not on top of, they didn't have everything. Whereas now, because of Instagram and things, people are like, oh no, they need to have all their S together. Like they need they need to have like be good looking, but also like have a passion and a purpose, and also have like a well-functioning family, and also have, it's like realistically, who has all of that?
Yeah.
No one. There's going to
So
be flaws.
that's quite interesting you say that now. So what's your perspective on relationships and like, setting boundaries in terms of the qualities that you want in someone?
So I think what I'll tell you, just in terms of clients, for myself, something we would work on is values, and like establishing what kind of a person you want to be and what kind of a life you want to live. Now, there are hundreds of amazing qualities out there. Like I've got a list of them I give to clients, and I'm like, okay, good luck with that. Now I want you to narrow it down, pick 5. And they're
Yeah.
looking at 100 things that are great: caring, kind, generous, hardworking, trusting your gut, like all these things that are, and you say, I want to be all of them. You can't be all of them. You need to
Yeah.
narrow it down. So if
Yeah.
you're someone who says, okay, entrepreneurship, like, all right, I'm really ambitious when it comes to setting up a business, which I often find with my male clients, I've found lately especially, is a really popular topic. Girls, I find lately more so it's becoming, but I still think it's like you said, it's not in the usual feminine story that we've been told. So that's coming more to light. But
So
let's say,
okay, can I reverse back there? Are you saying lads prefer an entrepreneur in a
yeah,
female?
lads seem to tell me more so entrepreneurship, because they think so. They think that it's the masculine thing to do, to go and be the breadwinner and everything like that, because that's what society has grown us up
I
to
tell
be.
I thought you meant that's what they were seeking in a female, and I was like, I nearly feel like that demasculates. Like,
No, 100%.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
no.
think
So when
sometimes
they're
women,
saying, yeah, when they're establishing their values, they're saying, oh, like something like hardworking, entrepreneurship, but then also you might have trusting your gut or something like that, kindness, anything like that, where it's trustworthy, honesty. So they're examples of values. So let's say when we work on that and I say, okay, right, there's 5 values that are important to you. This is the kind of life you want to live. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis to reflect that? And then when it comes to a single client, I'm saying, okay, well, if this is what matters to you, then when you're going on a date with someone who doesn't give a flying fahoot about those things, you're wasting your time, because you don't align in any way. And now I
yeah,
get that opposites attract, of course, but you'll often find opposites in mediocre things like, interests and hobbies. That's fine. But they still come back, successful relationships, and they still value maybe family and health, perhaps. Like if you're a couple that's really into, fitness and health and stuff, and just looking after yourself in that way. And that's why sometimes you may notice that couples who are unhealthy, they tend to like work together also, because fitness or nutrition isn't something that they both value, but they find love in that because neither of them have that in common. So it is almost a little bit like what we spoke about there with a shopping list, but not in terms of looks or ticking every box. It's saying these are my 3 most important boxes, and
yeah.
after that, differ. You're going to grow as a person, I'm going to grow as a person. We're going to discover things about each other that we may not like, but that we're willing to work on and compromise for each other. But at the end of the day, the core things we align with, and we work well together and gel well together in that way.
I feel like everyone's going to be asexual at one point in their life and like not love anything because of the way like our future is being designed.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it is, at the end of the day, it's all about like everyone's looking for love, and then you fall in love and you get giddy and you're all happy. And the only reason that you're giddy and you're happy is not the other person. It's because you finally told yourself now that you're lovable.
Yeah.
You waited until you fell in love with someone else and someone loved you to feel and tell yourself that you're lovable. You didn't need that other person to do that. You can do that by yourself when you're single.
Yeah.
And it's the same as saying, I'm going to wait till I make €1,000,000 to feel
Yeah.
successful. When I can feel successful for just getting up this morning and brushing my teeth and going on my walk, and you know.
I only filmed a video on this yesterday. This is mad.
No,
Yeah. I was just talking about like, how like the rate of like how happy you'll be over like £1 as opposed to £10. It's the same. It's the same. And it's like when we keep seeking for more and more and more, when you get there, like believe me, your standards are just keep rising along with it. Like so you'll never really be content, you know?
and that's where true beliefs come in. So no more than most lottery winners go broke. And there's a reason for that, because they never changed their beliefs first. So they grew up thinking anyone with money is, evil. Money's the root of all evil. Like we don't like usher them, no more than our parents would have said, like them down the road that have the big mansion of a house. Oh, like they're very well to do. And we think all these negative things about money. And then let's say you win the lotto and all of a sudden you think, I'm evil. Because if money's evil and I've got all this money, this is not good. This is uncomfortable for me. So then they go and they blow it all, or they, waste it. And it's because you never actually worked on yourself and your beliefs and, the true meaning behind these things, rather than, just kind of,
Yeah.
I want a billionaire. And it's like, well, it's not that easy, because chasing money has a very different vibration to it than receiving money. And if
Yeah.
you're always thinking about how you don't have a thing, you're
Yeah.
not going to get that thing, because you're in completely different spaces.
Ooh, manifesting, manifesting. I feel like,
Manifesting.
yeah,
That's
right.
it
So
all.
how can someone change that mindset? Where would they begin? Like on money scarcity and wanting to receive.
Literally, I will say, with it's not that deep. Like, it's not as glamorous and as sexy as people are making it out to be on social media. Get up in the morning and say to yourself, geez, that was a good sleep. God, that bed of mine is comfy, and knowing that there's people who maybe don't have as comfy a bed as you, or put on your nice gym clothes and say, like, I'm really lucky that I love that. I love that. That's nice. That's a
Yeah.
nice gym set. That's as simple as it is. So straight away, you're starting the day with a bit of gratitude, not in a glamorous way of I'm so happy and fulfilled with my life. No, it's not that. It's, yeah, these socks are great. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
literally as simple as it can be. And straight away, you've switched your mindset to, you know what, this life I'm living in so bad. It's grand. I've got a lot to be thankful for. I'm counting my blessings. It's all good. And when you think of yourself as, I made a video on this where I'm saying, if you want, like, be it money or be it a relationship, and it's on Spin 1038, so that's just a radio station in Ireland, but it's on one radio station. But when you get up and you complain and you think, oh my God, like I'm not going to be able to pay rent, like I've got no money, or I'm so single, I'm going to die alone. That's on a different radio station, because you're giving off different frequencies.
Yeah.
So if you want to have the relationship or have the money or whatever it is you're after, you need to get on those frequencies. You need to get on those vibrations. So someone who has lots of money, they'd be happy. They'd be bouncing around. They'd be dancing in the kitchen. So what do you need to do? You need to bounce around. You need to dance in the kitchen. You need to be kind. You need to be generous. Act like, life's going my way. It's working out for me. And that's
Yeah.
the simplest way to manifest, and it's not very glamorous and people don't like it, but just start saying to yourself, do you know what? Life is always working out for me.
I know
Just like that.
everything requires work. All this does require work, but it's so worth it in the end. How
100%.
how do you change the mindset of someone who's like being in this negative lull that's constantly speaking to themselves like they're a piece of shit? How do you change their mindset and push them?
I'd start out with, all right, so you're unhappy, and how's that been working out for you? You want to keep going that way? Okay, how's that been working out for you? Yeah, I'm not, I'm harsh when it comes to that, but I'm just like, I don't know what it is. I think I also have no time for
I'm like
like
this as well. Do you know what? I love it. I actually love it because I say to a client, and they just keep saying, "Oh, but I'm frightened," and I'm like, "Well, are you gonna die? Why are you frightened of this? Like you did it before,
it's
you
like
know?"
when you told when you told the story of the girl quitting her job and she's like 6 months later, I told you that 6 months ago. You should have quit your job. But you know what? People do have to come to that realization by themselves, no matter how much you tell them. But I do think I'm like, okay, well, we know how this Taylor Swift, I think I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending. Like, you know what your results
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
So if nothing changes, nothing changes. Like you see the life you have. If you're unhappy, clearly something needs to change in your life. So let's make some changes. It doesn't have to be drastic. And I think a lot of the time, and you see this probably a lot as a PT, people set themselves ridiculous standards. Like, let's say I'm Susan and I get up at 8:30 every morning and out the door for work at 9. And then as a new month or a new year starts, Susan's like, okay, I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. I'm going to do an hour workout and I'm going to have a smoothie. And then that lasts for a week or two and Susan falls off the bandwagon. Why?
yeah,
Susan should have just got up at 8:20 for two
yeah.
weeks and then 8:15 and then 8:10 and just set small, tiny, achievable goals. And she would have felt so much better in herself,
I
than
know.
trying to go extreme hell for leather.
I'm all
And then
about like turning up the volume slowly. Don't put it up full blast straight away. It's so I know you talk a lot about self-esteem. So I just want to ask you, when would be the time when someone realizes that like their self-esteem is on the floor? When do you think that this would be an opportunity for someone to be like, hold on a second, this is my self-esteem that's making me make shitty decisions or making me feel low?
yeah, so there's different pillars to self-esteem. It's kind of more layered. And I think people get confused that, self-esteem and confidence are two different things. Like confidence is a mask that you can put on when you walk into a room, walk into the gym, walk into the pub, whatever it is, and come across like, yeah, I can chat and I can socialize and I seem like I've got it all going. That's confidence. Self-esteem comes across in many different ways. So a lot of the time for people, they can be great in one aspect and then maybe things aren't going well in another. So where I would look with clients is we'll start off maybe with self-acceptance. So even just accepting where you're at in life right now and things about yourself and what am I good at and what am I not so good at and what needs more of my attention or what maybe am I not willing to grow? We can't be good at everything. So accepting that, you know what, I'm going to hire an accountant because I'm not so good with finances and I've no interest to be. And like saying to yourself, like that's one way of things. Or say for somebody who wants to lose weight and get in shape, just saying, okay, well, there's no, oh my gosh, why am I this? Like, this is the shape you're in right now. Okay, this is your starting point. We're not going to why, we're not going to play a
Yeah.
victim. Like, this is it. Okay, this is where I'm at. I accept it. Accepting things that like maybe from your childhood, okay, I didn't have a dad around when I brought up, or I didn't have or mom, or maybe one of my parents passed away, and of course it's horrible, and of course these are things, tougher cards dealt than perhaps your friends, but you're not going to get anywhere until you accept that this is what it is.
Yeah.
That's the way it. And then moving from self-acceptance to, I suppose, a self-responsibility. So saying to yourself, okay, well, no one's coming. Like the alarm goes off in the morning, I have to get up. Like no one's going to get me up. It's up to me. My life's in my own hands. I'm not going to live aimlessly kind of thinking, oh, like it's the first sign of immaturity when you think it's someone else's job to make you happy.
Yeah.
You have to make yourself happy. You're responsible for your own happiness and well-being. You're responsible for living a life that you don't want to escape or like that you're miserable in. Like if you're miserable, that's on you, and I know I'm coming across so harshly here, but it is. And that's sometimes what people need is someone telling them, being like, but that's on you. And yes, of course, there are things out of your control and people have different factors, no more than when Molly May got the absolute abuse of a lifetime with you have the same hours as Beyonce. But she wasn't lying in that sense. She acknowledged that, yeah, I had a good upbringing. I had parents that loved me. And that does come into play. Of course it does. But it's just, okay, well, what am I going to do moving forward? Like, what am I going to do with my 24 hours?
I'm sorry, I'm just pause this here for a revert back. So now with being responsible for your own thoughts and for your own actions, would you like obviously prime, say, your clients in terms of like having a different kind of inner dialect for themselves or changing their narrative?
Yeah, absolutely. So with clients, there's always homework. Now not a lot of it. I'm not like being the teacher in the situation, but there is some journal work to do. Now, the same way a client might send you their food for that day, their macros, what they ate or what they worked out or something like that. My clients send me their journal check-in from that day. So it's different for every person, but it usually goes along the lines of, let's say, some gratitude. Like I said, not fancy, just like socks, water, whatever. What went well that day, what perhaps didn't go so well, why, looking at why that is, like what made them feel good or what made them feel bad, were a goal they worked towards or value, like I was more of an honest person today when I told my colleague XYZ, things like that. So, or something they learned from a book or an audio, that's usually the way. And they'd send me that every day and I give them some feedback. And that's kind of them, I suppose, getting used to saying, okay, well, I've intended to do something. I've set an intention. Now I need to live each day in accordance with that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So, do you
Um,
find like clients, do they adhere to this? Because I feel like people are starting to have a really lazy approach on life now, with everything obviously, working out from the tap of our phones. We can get things delivered and everything's so readily available. And like you said, you were always seeking that dopamine hit on our phones. Do you think that like people don't adhere to this,
yeah. And
or
I think,
from your own experience?
yeah, from my own experience, I find like in a consultation call, I would say to the client, I'm like, I don't want your money. I don't want to see you for the next year. I want like a driving instructor, I want to give you some tools. And these are your tools so that you can survive when I'm gone. Like, I don't want you to have to come back to me too often so that you can survive yourself. And like journaling's a great tool that way because it's like, okay, you've invested in yourself here, you've invested in me, but you need to let me give you the best of me in terms of, if you're not going to send me your daily check-ins or you're not going to sit down with your journaling, which is uncomfortable at the beginning, but that's what
Yeah,
any coach is here for. Same way with you and check-ins, you
yeah,
know we're here for accountability. Use us until it becomes a habit. So use us for 21 days, and trust me, after 21 days of sitting down for 5 minutes, writing down a few things, it'll be strange when you don't on the 22nd day if you didn't do it, like
yeah,
any habit. And that's where, when I did the course on neuroplasticity, that's where that came into play in terms of like your brain, you can literally like burn all connections in your brain that you've made, bad habits and things like that, and you can create them. So like brushing our teeth was once foreign to us. Like we didn't know what the hell was going on. But now
yeah,
it's
yeah,
something we do at least twice a day,
yeah.
and very same with anything else. We can create that pathway when we do it enough times.
I did a course in neuroplasticity because really wanted to try like get my clients over the last hurdle and like just be able to talk some language that might be able to get them to understand why they're hitting their head against the wall, sort of thing. Can you elaborate with what neuroplasticity actually is?
Yeah, so our brain basically, there's two parts of our brain that contains granule cells, and that's the hippocampus and the cerebellum. And granule cells, they're the only two parts that are capable of neuroplasticity, but they're massive. So for, let's say, you who's a gym, you understand going to the gym, you tear the muscle fibers and then they
Yeah,
grow back stronger with protein and rest. It's the very same thing with your brain. You
yeah,
can tear down old brain connections, so messages, neural pathways they're called, but not to speak mumbo jumbo, but just, let's just say a pathway, a habit. You can undo that and you can build new ones. You can make gains in your brain, basically. So that's when the more you focus on a thing, the more you do a habit like brushing your teeth day in, day out, keep it going, your brain automatically begins to start doing it on autopilot. So it goes from short term to long term. You start to be able to just, it's second nature. And that's what I think as regards, exercise every day or journaling or whatever it might be. Yeah, right now it might be a new habit for someone and it might be like, gosh, this is actual effort getting up and doing this,
yeah,
do it enough times. And of course, with it, the rewards, the chemical rewards in your brain, but also like looking good maybe or whatever comes, like that combined will just create this neural pathway. Neuroplasticity is, your brain is growing, it's making the gains, you've created this new pathway, and unless you're going to go and work to undo it, then it's there, you know.
It's yeah, it's so amazing, like understanding obviously the science side of like, how we can actually do whatever the fuck we want, and we can
Yes.
really change ourselves and change our mindset and, you know, make life easier for ourselves in the future. But I think everyone's, going for the short term goals. They're going for the short term little hits and like what feels comfortable for them now, that they don't actually look that far ahead.
Absolutely. We don't, like, not everything that makes us happy is good for us. That's the bottom line.
Oh, I like that one. I love that.
Not like, and we have to start thinking more so of, is this bringing me short-term pleasure, but is it going to bring me long-term distress? So, the whole pack of digestive biscuits probably won't
Mm,
actually be in the future.
So I'm gonna ask you just a question here, because obviously being a counselor, what should when someone's feeling a little bit low, what should they do?
Depending on how low they're feeling or what their tendencies are. I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, you should book in a session with me or book in a session with a counselor or therapist. I'm not saying that's the first go-to. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes admitting that you have a problem is the first place, and just saying, look, I'm feeling low. Trying to do something every day that's is going to, like we said, turn up that volume knob. So just make you feel 1% better, not 100%, 1% better. That's all you should aim for. So I'm going to go for a walk. I know I don't want to do it, but when I go for a walk in nature, I know that I feel 1% better.
Yeah.
Okay. And now that might not be the case for everyone, but everyone has their equivalent. So it could be, going to a sport, or it could be just getting outside, doing something like that, whatever suits you. So doing that, it's good for you, it's going to benefit you. So, right, I'm going to commit to do that for the next 7 days. Right, this book now, I'm going to read one book. I'm going to find a book that helps me in whatever I'm struggling with. So it could be relationships, it could be loving yourself, anything, whatever you're struggling with. Finances maybe are getting you down. Okay, what can I do? I can buy one book for about €8 on Amazon, and I can read 5 pages a day. And that's going to be
Yeah.
a small. Number one, I'm going to feel like I accomplished something. And number two, I'm actually learning about the thing that's getting me down. And then you can introduce something else where it comes to, okay, I need to listen to this podcast where you might learn something new, where someone says, talk about talking to a friend or opening up. I'm going to share the problem. Okay, I'm going to talk to someone. So before you have to go getting a coach or getting a counselor, handing over money that maybe perhaps you don't have, say to yourself, okay, well, I need to talk to someone. So I'm
Yeah.
going to choose one person. It can be a family member, a friend, maybe even sending a message to someone like me on Instagram, because it's not as if I'll be like, oh, I'll answer this when I charge you. As if,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, there's so many ways out there to help. There's so many Instagram pages. There's so many Google searches that you can do there's information out there for you. So it's when you've exhausted those things and you do feel like maybe you need an outside help, that's when you should definitely reach out for help and chat to
Yeah.
someone, which is totally fine. Because it's just like I said, it's like a driving instructor. They're not there for life. It's not defeated. They're just someone who's going to help show you the way. Like
Yeah.
when clients, I'm so glad that I got in touch with them. Like, yeah, but you did it all. You changed your life. I just kind of held a
You were the
torch up. Maybe
manager. You were the manager.
I
That's
just kind of
all.
shouted at for a while.
You were the project manager and you were just kind of giving a little bit. Do you know what? Because like I use therapy as like a preventative, like now, currently, right now, I'm just using it as a preventative in terms of whilst I'm trying to spin so many plates at the moment. I just want to make sure my mental health is in check whilst I'm doing so, because I'm like being pulled left, right, and center. And I feel like even I say that to my counselor, I'm like, listen, you are like the direct, like I feel like you are my coach, like as in, because I'm just talking about business to him nearly like that the
Yeah,
whole time, because
yeah.
it's just like how can we just manage to get the best out of all situations here? And I just think as a preventative for the listener, like, you know, if it is something that you're kind of dancing with, like, I think like go ahead and start dancing with the idea of a new coach
Yeah,
and doing it, because like you
100.
we as human beings, we don't actually speak about these things as well, and everyone seems like they're getting too busy. You know, we're too busy to talk about this. And even when you go and a chat to someone, maybe other people aren't that mentally stable and they don't want to know. They don't want to know
No, and
either.
that's the sad reality. Everyone's focused on themselves, like they really don't care. And it can be like great and sad, the same sentence, to be like, everyone's just focused on their own crap, which in one sense is great because it's like, oh, they don't actually care what I'm doing,
Yeah,
like, or judgment or anything like that. But then it's also, like you said, it can be they're not as invested in your problems because they're just more worried about their own, which is
yeah,
fine. That's them just being human. It's not, we don't hate them for it. But
yeah,
that's when you yourself, okay, well, maybe I should look to a professional who cares and who has the ethic to, who's focused on me, and
yeah,
has that. And like you said, it's so important, and it's nothing to fear because it's just chatting to someone and getting things off your chest, and it's not a big long-term commitment. Sometimes you might only need to see someone once every 3 months to kind of
yeah.
keep your check, to get out off your chest what you need to get off, and send you on your way. And that's absolutely fine.
All right, so just to round this up, because I have a traditional question I normally ask people, and it's because it's called the Detached Podcast. Is there anything that you detach yourself from that's holding you back, that's kind of limiting your abilities, would you say? Anything. It can be thoughts, it can be something physical, whatever.
I do think the fear of what people think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, when you have an online presence of any kind, or you're just doing something that's not necessarily the norm, I think you have to let go to a certain extent, because I think we always will care. Like back cavemen cared what the tribe thought of them,
Yeah.
So it's there, it's always going to be there. But the minute you start just living your life, detaching less from what other people think, and you start to accept that, what, I'm just going to do me, and they're going to talk anyway. That's really, really life changing. It's really empowering, and it just kind of makes you think, yeah, gosh, my life changed when I started doing things and stopping caring what other people thought of me, and just being like, well, I'm going to do me, and like, you can stay and complain and whatever, but it's no more than the self responsibility we chatted about. Like, if you want to do something, and if you're feeling a bit miserable about something, don't let anything, including the fear of what other people are going to say, hold you back, because you have to get yourself out of misery, regardless of what other people are thinking.
I'm going to sound really deep now, but I'm going to be like, what's your goal in life? What's your
I
goal? Do you have a really
I
big goal? Because I feel like I want to hold you to this and be like, I want to invite you back on my podcast next year, and I can see you being on like TED Talks or something.
You're not going to like my answer, because I was thinking of this the other day, and I was like, do you know what? I've already achieved my life goal, because my goal was always, especially with this, to add value to other people's lives, just add value and just have a legacy, so that one day and I think that's when you deal with grief and things, you start to realize that, like, we were born, we live, then we die, and we all are going to die. I'm not being morbid, but what legacy are you leaving behind? That someone says, yeah, well, she changed my life, or she added to my life, and it might be just a friend who you made smile, or in, let's say, professional terms, when I get a message of a client and they're like, oh my gosh, you changed my life, like I wouldn't have done this only for you, or like, I've gotten that message of more than one people, but let's just say I've got it from one person. Like, that's me done. Do you know, I've
Yeah.
changed one person. So everyone else is a bonus, but like, someone else's life is better because of having, Chad with me. So I'm like, what more could I want? Like, and I'm just, of course, I want to keep doing that. And that's really the long term goal, to answer your question. Just keep doing that. But also, like, have my balance, and like, live my life, enjoy my family, enjoy my friends, try and not pour from an empty cup too, make
Yeah.
sure, because in work, you are taking on other people's problems and issues. But you just gotta detach from it too, and try and make sure that you're looking after yourself. So like,
The
I just want to live
detached.
Check me out, the Detached Podcast. Plug. But, but yeah, I just, I enjoy simple things, and it's not as glamorous as people make it out to be. I don't feel a need. I've been to Bali. I don't need to live there and cut off
Same.
like
Same.
it's grand, but I quite enjoy, and I've been in Dubai, and I quite enjoy living in Ireland. I enjoy simple things, and I like going for a walk, and I like cooking, and that's what makes me feel joyful. So I'm just gonna keep doing that, and hopefully life will of course throw things in my way, but hopefully I'll overcome them.
Yeah, I feel like the more you know, especially about like obviously mindset and how we actually work as human beings, you're just like, actually, life is very, very simple. Why are we trying to drag everything in and make overcomplicate everything and make ourselves sad? Like,
And I think that needs to be reiterated for people nowadays on social media, because they feel like they can't be happy unless they go to somewhere like Bali and read a book a day and do yoga and do meditation. And that doesn't suit everyone. That doesn't have to be the way. Like, if you enjoy fencing, go and do the fence, just to include literally. And that's why I'm always like, I can't believe people pay me money to tell them do more things that you enjoy and do less things.
yeah,
Yeah, but that's it. That's the recipe. It's like, okay, keep track of that though. Say to yourself in the morning or at night, what 3 or 4 things did I do today that made me feel good? And what
yeah,
could I have avoided that made me feel bad? So, for example, having a fight with a colleague, when you sit down at night and actually think about your day, you could say, do you know what? Next time they annoy me, I'm just gonna walk away, because
yeah.
it just kind of,
That's a real mammy. That's a real Irish mammy
yeah,
thing to say.
I know. But like, it's so true. Just be like, be the bigger person sometimes in these things, or like, don't people who are getting annoyed, vegans online on Twitter, being like, why are you eating meat? And it's like, don't stress, go about your day, like, just
Yeah.
don't worry about the rest other people, just kind of you do you.
Yeah, it's a crazy world we're living in, and it's so funny how we just have to actually put more focus in not being so distracted by all the mess and the noise that's around us.
Absolutely, yeah, it is. I think, start small and just say to yourself, okay, some people work a 9 to 5 and that's the way it is, and they want to pay the bills. That's fine. That is completely okay. So
Yeah,
let's look at some ways that we can make your day just a little bit better.
exactly. So before we go now, where can everyone find you and what are you doing at the moment in terms of, are you doing any kind of courses or anything like that?
So at the moment, well, I'll start. People can find me on Show Me Your Mindset, but it's SHEO. So my name's Sheona, so that was supposed to be a pun, and on with it. Show Me Your Mindset on all social media platforms, really, and then show me your mindset at gmail.com if anyone wants to send me an email. But at the moment, I am changing from teaching during the day. I'm still going to be working in schools, but I'm going to be doing some counseling and some well-being initiatives, I suppose, and modules with like transition years and things like that.
Brilliant.
So yeah, so that's kind of what I'm working at the minute, is presentations and stuff for parents on developing a child's self-esteem, which has really helped me when it comes to adults and how
Yeah.
to understand a lot of things come from, in terms of our self-esteem. It can be rooted back to childhood, so yeah,
I know
that's
if
kind of
we
what
can
I'm.
look after the kids, then it obviously like helps for the future.
It really does. And it helps, I find, with adults as well, in looking back, being like, okay, now I've started to ask more questions to try and find out, oh, I maybe that's where it was rooted from, or that sort of thing. So I do
Yeah.
think that's kind of where my focus is at the moment. But yeah, that's everything. I'm really trying to push the self-esteem dream that I'm selling.
Yeah. But you know what? It even push though on the kids front as well, with like parents with their kids, because I'm battling with, well, not battling, but I'm really like trying to push with a lot of my clients that, like, your nutritional information that now is so important for your kids, because I remember, like growing up, like, and even a lot of my own clients, I can see behaviors in them when they're eating certain things. And I was like, it stemmed from what was the diet and culture that came out of the 90s or the 80s or whatever it was, that is like
There's people
progressively.
not eating bread.
Yeah, I'm like, what is this? I had a message yesterday. Someone was like, "Oh, I don't really think you eat bread." Like, and I said, "Sorry, I actually have 4 slices per day, but like, let's not talk about it." Like, you know,
Like,
I,
I can't believe we're still battling with the bread argument.
I
It's like,
know, I know.
bread is so good.
I did a terrible video on bread before, like, when Instagram videos had
Oh,
only
yeah,
started, and
yeah.
it's actually embarrassing. It's one of those videos that
Make a
I'm gonna.
new one, make a new one. It's still relative though. It's still relative.
I actually might
Don't
just
fear
say.
it.
Anyway, let's round this up. It was an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and I want to say thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
No better.